Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's Daf Yomi is MOED KATAN Daf Ches. We are holding 2 lines from the top of the Amud. We're in the midst of a sugya, and perhaps before we continue, let's do a quick, brief background. So in the Mishnah we learned that on Yom Tov, you don't have to take a look at the nega. It's up to the kohen. You can defer inspection of the nega until after Yom Tov. How can you do that? How are you allowed to delay inspecting the nega? That was the kasha that we dealt with at the end of yesterday's daf. We had 2 answers. Rabbi Yehuda, he says, look, there's a pasuk which reads as follows: Ubiyoim heirois boy, which indicates that it's not absolute. Sometimes you take a look. Sometimes you can postpone. Yesh yoim shataroya boy, yesh yoim sheyataroya boy. We learn from here. There's a mitzvah need. Regel. A chassan has his sheva brachas. You can postpone inspection of the nega until after the occasion. Rebbe responds with the words "Einay tzarach." You don't need that pasuk. There's a more straightforward pasuk. Look, when a fellow has a nega in his home, the kohen says, wait a second, before I decide, before I issue the psak that it's tummy, clear out the belongings, the possessions from that home. And as Rebbe says, if you're going to wait for dvar harishus, to allow him to save a couple of pennies, a tircha, save his klei cheres from getting tummy, in which case you have to break them. So that's dvar harishus. It's non-mitzvah concern. Certainly when it's Yom Tov or Sheva Brachot, of course you postpone. Now, is there any halachic nafka mina between the 2 makoros, between the 2 psukim? Abai says no. There is no difference. Rabbi Yehuda both agree that you may postpone re'iyas hanega for the sake of a dvar mitzvah, for the sake of dvar rishus. Rabbi says there is a slight nafka mina. You see, the pasuk of Pineus Abayis is speaking when the nega was present in the home. It wasn't on one's person. In that case, the Torah says you can postpone even the dvar harishus, even if it's a non-mitzvah concern for his kalim. In the pasuk of B'yoyim Hirois Boy, which indicates that there are some days where you don't have to take a look at the nega, we learn that Yom Tov is accepted. Zayni Mei HaMishta, those days are not days of Re'iyas HaNega. And we're dealing with mitzvah concerns there. Therefore, says Rava, that would be a nafka mina, whether you learn from this pasuk or from this pasuk. So all would agree that by a nega in a house, which is not on one's person, of course you postpone even the dvar harishus, a non-mitzvah concern. But when it's a nega on one's actual person, negei adam, here we're going to have a nafka mina between the 2 approaches. Rabbi Yehuda, who learns from the pasuk Ubiyoim Hirois Ba Yesh Yoim Shata Raya, which indicates that sometimes, some days are not suitable for Re'iyas HaNega. That's pertaining to mitzvah concerns. Yom Tov, Shevasi Mei HaMishta. So if it's a nega on one's person, you could only postpone for the sake of a dvar mitzvah, but not for a dvar rishus. When it's on the home, it's removed from the person, it's not so severe, it's not so personal. You're right, then we could be ma'achar, we could postpone even for a dvar rishus. As the pasuk says, wait until he clears the home of his belongings. But on the person himself, nega adam, it's only allowed for a dvar mitzvah. Whereas Rebbe, who focuses on that pasuk of Etziva HaKoyin U'Pinis Abayis, indicates that he doesn't need the other pasuk. He's learning straight from here. And he's learning from here that any nega, whether it's personal or on the home, can be pushed off, can be deferred, even for the sake of a dvar mitzvah, which is the topic of discussion in that pasuk. Etziva HaKoyin U'Pinis Abayis, clear the kalim. So that's Rava's approach. There is enough nafka mina, dvar harishus. According to Rebbe, dvar harishus, dvar mitzvah, it's irrelevant. You can defer, you can postpone. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, in the home, yeah. But on one's person, it's only allowed for dvar mitzvah. Okay, let's go on to the Gemara on the second line second line from the top of Ches Amud Aleph. Rabbi Amar. Now, according to Rabbi, who learns a personal nega, nigei adam from nigei batim, so why do we need two pesukim? See, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we need two pesukim. A personal nega can be deferred for a dvar mitzvah, for a regel, for zaynim yamishta. But not for dvar rishus. The next pasuk, Tzvi HaKohen Upinas Abayis, is speaking about a nega on the home, and that could be postponed, even for dvar rishus, even for a non-mitzvah concern. But according to Rebbe, seems to equate the two types of nega to each other. Whether it's nega adam or nega bayis, you can defer for even dvar rishus. So why do you need two psukim? Rabbi Amar, Rabbi responds, Itzrich, both psukim are in fact needed. If only from that first pasuk, I would say l'dvar mitzvah in, l'dvar harushas loy. You can only defer, you can only procrastinate if you're addressing a mitzvah concern. Some days you take a look, some days like Yom Tiv, Zayin Yimei HaMishta, you defer. But not just for a dvar harishus, for a non-mitzvah concern. Chasav Rachmana v'tzivah koyin. That's why we have the second pasuk. Wait until he clears the kelim from his home. The concern is personal. And still we procrastinate, we delay. V'chasav Rachmana v'tzivah koyin. If only from that pasuk, I would say hani in. Yeah, in this case of the nega on the home, the lav tuma dugufe. You procrastinate for a dvar harishus to save his kelim because it's not personal. It's on his home. It's not as personal. It's not so severe. Avol tuma dugufe. But if it's a personal nega on one's person, perhaps you have to go take a look at it. You can't delay. Tzricha. That's why we have the other pasuk. Ubiyom hiro is boy, which is speaking about a personal nega. And as Rashi points out, now we no longer differentiate between the two types of negaim. And if we find that by the nega on the bias, we can defer, we can procrastinate for even a dvar rishus. That's learned from one pasuk. And then on top of that, we find that we can delay even by a personal nega. So we say, look, the Torah allows delaying in either case. Whether it's for rishus, whether mitzvah, we no longer differentiate between the two types of concerns. Let's go back for a second. Yesh yom shata royeboy, yesh yom shiata royeboy. We have the pasuk of yom herois boy, which tells you that on Sundays you have to go see the nega. On others you can delay, you can avoid, you can ignore the nega. My mashma. How do we learn it from this pasuk? Where do you see this message? Amar Abaye, in kein lichtev rachmana b'yom. Because otherwise the pasuk can just say b'yom. My u b'yom. Why the extra vav? Shema minna. That additional vav is coming to tell you a message. Yesh yom shatarei boy. Yesh yom shiatarei boy. Some days you take a look, some days you ignore the nega. So according to Abaye, the limit is from the extra vav. Rav Amar, more than that, kula kra yeseru. The whole kra, Rashi says the word kra means teva. The whole word is extra. Ubiyam is an extra word. Didn't came because otherwise lichtav rachmana ubehirois. When it will be, why do you have to say biyom? My ubiyom shemami no. We learn from here yesh yom shatarayboy, yesh yom shi'atarayboy. So according to Rava, the entire word ubiyom is an extra word to indicate that on some days you inspect and some days you don't. Abaye who says that it's the vav that's coming to teach us this lesson, not the entire word. That's because the word is needed for something else. The actual word b'yom is needed b'yom v'la b'layla. You only inspect the nega during daytime when you can see it, not at night. So the word b'yom is already used for that halacha. It's the letter vav, which is the chiddush, which is the extra letter. But Rava responds, b'yom v'le b'layla. Rava b'yom v'le b'layla b'noli. Indeed, how does Rava know this halacha? You inspect the nega only by day, not at night. because the word ubiyim, according to him, is unavailable for that halacha. It's already been applied for this halacha. Nafkale, he learns it from a different pasuk. Milakol mare ene akoyin. It has to be visible to the kohen. Rashi says, mashma b'yoyim sheyachal liros. During daytime, during daylight, where you can actually see it. V'abaye, why can't Abaye learn this halacha from that pasuk? That pasuk is unavailable. It's needed for something else, lim'uti, to exclude a case of summa ba'achas me'inav. If a kohen is blind even in one eye, he can't inspect a nega. Milakol mare ene akoyin. He has to have full capacity. V'rava nami m'bayli lahachi. Okay, so then doesn't Rava need it for that as well? For the summa ba'achas me'inav, in which case the halacha of b'yoyim v'lei b'layla needs to be learned from the word u'b'yoyim. So the whole word is not extra. In Nachanami, you're right. Ve'ela b'yoyim v'lei b'layla menoli. So Melakol Marin HaKoyin is coming to tell you La Fuki Summa Ba'achas Me'inav. And how does he know? B'yoyim v'lei b'layla. Ve'ela b'yoyim v'lei b'layla menoli. Nafkale, he has another pasuk. Miknega nirali b'boyis. We learn from here, the nega has to be seen, naturally seen. Li. V'lei la'oir. I have to see it naturally. With my own visual capacity. V'lei la'oir. As opposed to needing some artificial assistance, some flashlights, some candles. So that's when you can go take a look at a nega. When it's seen naturally. B'yoyim. So that's Rabbi's source for the halacha of b'yoyim. If so, the word u'b'yoyim hiro is extra word. Coming to tell you that you can defer, you can procrastinate, you can delay when you're running into Yom Tov. V'abaye, why can't Abaye learn from that pasuk as well? Ima hasim, if only from that pasuk, havamina, perhaps I would say, hani mili tuma de lav de gufe. Perhaps this requirement, this yoyim requirement, applies only to a nega bias, which is the actual topic of conversation. That's what the pasuk they were speaking about. Speaking about a benega in his home. So since it's removed, well, more mekel. Dafka by day, not at night. Aval tuma de gufe, but if it's a personal nega on one's body, afilu nami. Perhaps even if it's during nighttime where you need a flashlight, you need a candle, you should go take a look at the nega. More machmer. It's on one's person. Kamash malon. That's why you need the other pasuk, B'yoyim hirois boy, which is speaking about a nega on one's body. There as well, you're limited to daytime as opposed to nighttime. So the bottom line is, we learned that the kohen has a prerogative to delay inspection of the nega, past the Yom Tov, past the Sheva Brachas. How do we know this? We have two sources. According to Rabbi Yehuda, B'yoyim hirois boy. Now, which word? Machlokes Abaye v'Rava. Abaye says the vav. Rava says the whole word ubiyim. And according to Rebbe, it's from V'tzivi Akoyin Upines Abayis, which indicates that we wait to declare the home before we actually issue the verdict. We decide whether the home is tummy or not. So apparently delay is okay. Now, bottom line, is there an nafkamina lahalacha? So according to Abaye, there is no nafkamina between the two approaches. According to Rabbi, there is a slight nafkamina as follows. According to Rabbi Yehuda, if it's on the bias, then we can delay even for dvar harishos, a non-mitzvah concern, like clearing the kalim. If it's on gufay, then it's only for dvar mitzvah. Ubiyayim herois boy, only this type of day, not that type of day, not a Yom Tov, not a Sheva Brachas. These are all mitzvah concerns. Whereas according to Rebbe, we don't differentiate whether it's mitzvah, rishos, bias, or nega adam. Delaying is okay. According to all shittas, you can only take a look at the nega by day, whether it's this type of nega or that type, as well as a summa, even ba'achas me'inav, is disqualified from seeing the nega. Zok the Mishnah, v'oid Amar Rab Meir. This is sort of a continuation. In the previous Mishnah, we had Rab Meir telling us a kula, that the kohen can take a look at the nega and be selective in his responses. If it's tar, he'll tell you. If it's tamei, he'll defer. V'oid Amar Rab Meir, another kula, the name of Rab Meir, regarding Chol HaMoed. Malakad Adam Atzomes Aviv Imay. They used to bury their mason locally and then eventually retrieve the bones remaining and take the remains over to a family plot which was situated far away. So it would make for easy transporting, easy transferring. They would do something called likut atzomes. You can do that on Chol HaMoed. Malakat Adam Atzomes Aviv Imay. You can retrieve the bones of his parents and relocate them elsewhere. This is an occasion. This is a happy occasion to relocate his parents to the kever avos, Rashi says. So that's mutar on Chol HaMoed. Rabbi Yehuda, no. It's a time of mourning, burying his mace. You shouldn't do that on Chol HaMoed. If a loved one passed away a while back, and now a professional maspid, eulogizer shows up in town, you can't utilize his services and be mo'erer people, evoke feelings of mourning and bitterness. You shouldn't do that. Nor should he set forth a hesped on a recently departed mace if it's too close to Yom Tov. Koydem l'regel shleshim yom, within 30 days of Yom Tov. Says the Gemara, V'raminu, we have a kasha. Rameir here says that you can do likut atzomes because it's a time of joy. It's a simcha. V'raminu, listen to this brayso. Malaket atzmes avav ivay. If a person is engaged in relocating the remains of his parents, harezim misabal aleim kolal yom. He observes Avelis the entire day. It's a Yom Kvura. Ula Erev Ein Mesabal Leim, but not the following night. So it's a limited Avelis. It's pretty clear that's not a happy occasion. Even though he didn't have visual contact with those remains, they were wrapped in the sheet. But the fact that he's reburying them, that's a Zman of Avelis. How can Rameir say otherwise? Simcha Hiloi. Amar Abaye, no, that's not what he meant. Ema. Explain as follows. The reason why Rameh allows you to do this on Yom Tov, just the opposite, because even though this procedure evokes tsar, but it's in the midst of a Yom Tov. Let's go over to Rashi, off to the right. He means to say like this. He's totally immersed in Yom Tov. That carries the day, so to speak. It's Yom Tov today. And therefore, he won't allow this kvura of atzomes avav ima to interfere and take away from Simchas Yom Tov. Fact is, they didn't die today. Fact is, they were already buried. It's just a relocation here. So true, typically it brings about Avelis, but Yom Tov is the real occasion. Yom Tov carries the day. That's the primary occasion today. It's the Yom of Yom Tov. So he identifies with the Yom Tov more than he identifies with the Avelis of Malaket Atzmos of Avim. And therefore, according to Rav Meir, the Simcha of Yom Tov will override, will supersede the Avelis and its mutter. Apparently, Rabbi disagrees. He says the Avelis of this procedure will interfere with Yom Tov and should not be done. Continues the Gemara. But lo ya'arir al mesa. My lo ya'arir al mesa, what exactly is this Amarav? Kad hadar sabdana, like the eulogizer, the maspid, who would make his rounds, Marav and Eretz Yisrael, Amri, and he would declare, Yifkuni mei, let all cry with him, Kal merire liba, all the bitter-hearted people cry along with me, and that's how it would be mo'erer, bitterness and avelis on a departed fellow. You shouldn't do that within 30 days of Yom Tov. Koydem haregel shleishim yom. Why 30 days? Ma'ishna shleishim yom. Amar Kahana, Amar Yehuda Marav, it's based on a story. Ma'as abadam echad. An incident involving this fellow, Shanik Shekines Mois. He was collecting money. He was saving up funds, Lalis Laregel, to pay for his travel expenses to Yerushalayim. Uba Sabtan. And apparently he had somebody who was recently departed in the family. Uba Sabtan, and this professional maspid, eulogizer, pays him a visit. V'amad Pesach Pesai, approaches his home, And his wife noticed him. She says, wow, perfect occasion, perfect opportunity. This fellow offered his hesped services. Let me take up his offer. V'nat lasan ishtay, says his wife took the funds that he had saved up to be oiled the regel. V'nas nasan loy, she paid it to the maspid. He had no money left. V'nimna v'le'olah, and he couldn't go up to Yerushalayim that year. At that point, Chazal established you should not be involved in hesped within 30 days of Yom Tov. Mepharshim explained 30 days is the Zman Hachana, as we know. Shaylin v'doishin bilchas regel shleishim yom kaidem l'chag. So typically, that's when you start preparing, you start saving up, and there's always a concern that he might deplete his savings for this maspid's services. So therefore, keep away from this practice. So that's the first pshat. But Shmuel explains differently, because it's going to interfere with Yom Tov itself. It's part of human nature. Hashem made it this way, that it takes 30 days to free oneself. It takes 30 days for the avelus, for the bitterness to dissipate somewhat. Says Rashi on top. Keeping the mace in mishtakech min alev shloshim yom. Since it takes 30 days for the effect to wane. If he does the hesped within 30 days, it might spill into Yom Tov. It might be affected by the bitterness. It might continue, so to speak, the theme of the hesped into Yom Tov. So make sure it's more than 30 days to Yom Tov. This way, by the time Yom Tov comes around, he will no longer feel the effect, the bitterness, the mourning, which might interfere with his Yom Tov. Maybe Nayu says the Gemara is enough community between two reasons: depletion of funds, interfering with Simchas Yom Tov. Ikib Benayu, difference is Da'od Bechinam. Let's say the maspid offers his services free of charge. Over here, there's no concern of depletion of savings, so it would be mutter. But the other concern of interfering with Simchas HaRegel certainly still exists. Okay, so in summary, regarding Bimalakit Atzames on Yom Tov, we have Machlekes. Rabbi Yossi says there's an Avelus associated with it, which interferes with Yom Tov. Rabbi Meir says Simchas Yom Tov is Goiver, overrides that slight Avelus. What about a hesped within 30 days? That shouldn't be done because he can deplete his savings on that, or it can create tsar on Yom Tov itself. Nafkamina is if the services are offered free of charge. Zaktim Ein choyfren kuchen ukvaros b'moed. They used to prepare kvarim ahead of time. You're not allowed to dig a kuch, a kaver. The Gemara explained what these things are. Anchoy lamoed, in anticipation of future need. Aval machanchen as kuchen b'moed, but you can fix it up, you can modify, you can adjust the size of the kaver anchoy lamoed. That's not much of a terch, not much of a malach, and that's mutter. What else can you do? V'isrin nevreches b'moed. Nevreches is a small laundering pool, a little pool that you dig, where you can wash your laundry on Chalamoid. That you can do. Asks Taisvis, why would he need a laundering pit? You're not meant to do laundry on Chalamoid. Yishlema says Taisvis, we have others that are mutter. Gemara later will speak about some exceptions to the rule. Person coming from out of town, let out of prison. So you can wash for those people, and that's why he's making the nevreches. What else can you do? V'arein, you can build a coffin, im ha-meis b'chatzer, provided the mace is in that courtyard, in which case it's obvious that it's being done for his purpose. Otherwise, says Rashi, it's not so apparent what he's doing. He's building some sort of furniture, maybe. Shelo yomru malacha acherasi, says Rashi. And therefore, only if the mace is right there, it's pretty apparent that it's for his sake and it's mutter. Tosfos brings a Yerushalmi. This is only a concern if he's not a Mason Mefursum, but if he's a Mason Mefursum, which means a famous person passes away, everybody knows. That's what he's doing it for. In this case, you can do it even if the mace is not actually there in the chutz. Continues the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, it doesn't allow building a mita from scratch, bringing boards, chopping them up. It's too much of a melacha. It's too mefarhesia. It's too grand of a melacha. It interferes with Simchas Yom Tov, with kavod hamoyed. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler elim ken yeshim nisarim. The only time he can do it is if he already has prepared boards prepared, and all he has to do is bang them together. But to go ahead and take large logs and chop them down into boards, into properly sized pieces of wood, that's too much of a mlacha that interferes with simchas, with kavod haregel. Says the Gemara, my kuchen and my kvaros. We say that you're not meant to make kuchen and kvaros on moed. What are these two things? Rabbi Yehuda, pretty similar. Kuchen b'chafira. Kuchen are in-ground graves. Ukvaros b'binyan. Kvaros are speaking about above-ground graves. Tana mihachi, of the same Nabraisa. Elohein kuchen, ve'elohein kvaros. What are these two things? Kuchen b'chafira, in-ground. Ukvaros b'binyan, above-ground. Aval machanchen as a kuchen, you can modify. You can adjust the kuch. Kesad machanchen, Rabbi Yehuda. She'im haya aruch. If it was a bit too long, mekatzra, you can shorten it. Once it's a ton of the brisa we added, marach boy, you can lengthen it if he needs, umarach boy, and he could widen it a bit as long as he's not initiating, he's not building it anew. V'oisin nevreches, my nevreches, what is that? Amar Yehuda zubakia, it's a laundering pit. He digs out a bit of a pit, and he makes a puddle in there so that he can wash his laundry. V'atanya, we learned in a brisa, hanevreches v'habakia. So the brisa in Baba Basra describing two types of pits. Nevreches is one, and bakia is something else. Apparently, nevreches and bakia are not the same type of pit, not serving the same function. On Abaye, they're closely related. On Abaye, Temer Rav Kanem. One is a gia, the main pit, ubar gia, a secondary pit next to it, a drainage pit. So in fact, they're both serving the same purpose, both functioning as laundering accessories. One is larger, one is smaller. So the brisa of Basra, Nevreches, Bakia, Nevreches is the larger one, Bakia is the smaller one. But technically, they're both serving laundering purposes. That's what we meant. And now Mishnah. Nevreches, the Gemara responds by saying that's Bakia because Bakia is just another way of referring to a laundering pit. But of course, there are two types within the context of laundering pits. There's Nevreches and Bakia. One is bigger, one is small. V'arn imabes b'chatzer. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says the only way you can do it is if you have nisarim, pre-cut boards ready to be assembled. Tanina. So now Mishnah, we're going to have a raya lahada tanar rabbanon to the following brisa. Oisin called tzorchi hames. You can tend to all the mace's needs. Goizis like sa'aroy, trim his hair. Mechapsin like susay, launder his clothing. Voisin like aroin, building a coffin. Minasaran, hamunasaran, merev yamtiv provided. They're pre-cut pieces of wood. And this is Shittas Rabbi Yehuda, now Mishnah as well. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Eimer, he adds a point. Af mavirin eitzim, umanasran. You can go ahead and cut down larger pieces of wood, as long as it's bitzina b'teich beisai, quietly in your home. In which case, it's not contravening kavod yamtiv. If it's bitzina, it's okay. Okay, so bottom line is, what can you do on Chol HaMoed as per the needs of a departed fellow? So to prepare kuchen and kvaros in advance, you can't do. To mechanech them, to modify them, that you can do. We learned about digging a nevreches kaifsin, laundering pit. What about an aron? If the mace is right there, he's free to do. To make this aron. If the nasarim are prepared before Yom Tov, according to all shittas, that's mutter. What about if he's preparing, if he's cutting down, if he's chopping down wood to make the aron? Oh, here we have a machlekes. Tanakama says that's okay. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees, and we have Rav Shimon Gamliel in the brisa that it can be done b'tzina b'teich beisai. Now, some of Farshim actually learn that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is actually a reflection of the Tanakama now Mishnah. Now, Tanakama only allows chopping down wood if it's b'tzina b'teich beisai. Continues the Mishnah. Ein noisin noshen b'moed. One is not to get married on Chol HaMoed. The Gemara will give 4 reasons for this halacha. Loi psulois, whether she's a psula, v'loi almonois, or whether she's a widow. V'loi miyabmen, nor can he do yibum. V'pnei she'simcha hiloi. It's an happy occasion which interferes with Simchas Yom Tov. Aval machzer hutz grushasim. You can remarry, divorce you. That's not so exciting. It doesn't interfere with Simchas Yom Tov. A woman could engage in applying cosmetics on Chol HaMoed, even though it requires malacha, colors and painting. That's okay. It's like her eichel nefesh. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo tosed. Applying some sort of lime, hair removal material, that she shouldn't do. Because although eventually she'll derive benefit, but the immediate effect is pretty unpleasant. It makes it look unpleasant looking, and it's nivul, it's manavel her, and therefore interferes with Simchas Yom Tov. A non-professional, a hedyot, can mend, can fix a tear in a beged. He can do it kedarkai, without any shinoi, the way he usually does it, because in any case it's not a professional job. So it's tzarech hamayid, right? He needs it for Yom Tov, and it's not a masa uman, it's not a professional job. Therefore it's mutter. But v'hu uman, a professional tailor, machlev, he has to deviate from the norm. He can't do a professional job. The Gemara explained, machlev either means he makes gaps between the stitches, or does zigzag stitches in a way that it's not even, it doesn't look professional. You can string the beds. So they would have a bed frame, and then they would run ropes across, back and forth. You can do it on Chol HaMoed. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mamatchen. You can't run the ropes across, you can just fasten them, tighten them, if they were there to begin with. So the Mishnah doesn't allow marriage on Yom Tov. Why? It generates simcha. What's wrong with simcha? Says the Gemara, V'chi simcha hiloi my habi. What in the world is wrong with simcha? Says Rashi, V'chi simcha asur b'Yom Tov. You can't be happy on Yom Tov. What can be better than simcha on Yom Tov? Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, V'chein Amar Rabbi Lezer Amar Beishia. V'amar, some say it was Rabbi Lezer, Amar Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Chanina. L'vishein ma'arvin simcha b'simcha. Nothing wrong with being happy on Chol HaMoed, if you're happy for the right reasons. If you're focusing on Simchas Yom Tov, which is the call of the day. But to interfere, to bring in another cause for happiness which interferes with Yom Tov, that should not be done. Says Rashi, right off to the left, De'ein ma'arvin simcha b'simcha, K'leimar, be'inon delismach b'simchas moed chudei. His reason for joy and happiness on Yom Tov must be Yom Tov generated, with nothing else getting in the way. It's interesting that Taisus says like this. It's exeris hakasav. The Gemara later will learn from a pasuk. You're not meant to interfere, to mix one simcha with the other. But then he says, "V'tam nir." Listen to Taisus. Tam nir ksas. I'll give you somewhat of a reason to make it plausible. The k'moy shein oisin mitzvahs chavilis. Just like we know, you don't bundle together mitzvahs. This is a Gemara in brachas and psachim. You don't take 5 mitzvahs and bundle them together in one bracha. You don't do that. Looks like he's trying to unload the mitzvahs. The Taisus has a different perspective. What's wrong with bundling together mitzvahs? Because each mitzvah is meant to be addressed separately. You have to approach each mitzvah like it's the only thing you have today. It's the only thing in your world. The be'inan she'ehei libei paner l'mitzvah achas. If you want to read the Taisus inside, it's 9 lines from the bottom. He says, "The ba'inan sheyehei liboi panui l'mitzvah achas, v'lo yefana atzmei himena." Why can't you bundle together mitzvahs? Because your leiv has to be fully focused on one mitzvah without any diversion. One mitzvah at a time, with full shleimus, full commitment. V'chein simcha b'simcha. Same thing with simchas. It has to be yeh liboi panui b'simcha. You have to be fully engaged, emotionally, fully connected to this simcha. If you put together 2 simchas, you multitask, you're missing the point. You're not here nor there. So that's why we're not ma'arif simcha b'simcha. Stick to simcha saregel and that's it. Continues the Gemara. Rabba bar Rav Huna Amar, he gives another reason. What's wrong with a wedding on Yom Tov? B'pnei shemaniach simcha saregel v'oisik b'simchas ishta. He takes it a step further. He might abandon, he might ignore simchas regel, be involved with this most exciting event in his life. Simchas Ishtay. So it's more than just ein ma'arvin. Don't mix together two simchas. Here it's neglect. You're neglecting Simchas HaRegel and totally immersing in Simchas Ishtay. So that's a greater concern. Amli Abayla Rav Yosef. Ha de Rabba bar Rav Huna. This explanation that we just learned, the Rav, really comes from Rav. The Amar Rav got Daniel bar Katin Amar Rav. Menayin shein noisin nashim b'moed. How do we know that we don't get married on Chol HaMoed? On Yom Tov. Moed means Yom Tov and Chol HaMoed. Shenemar v'samachta b'chagecha. We learned b'chagecha v'le b'ishtecha. You have to engage in Simchas Chag, not b'ishtecha. Why? Because Simchas Ishta will take away, will adversely affect Simchas HaRegel. Ul Amar, I'll give you a third reason. We're concerned about exertion. Because to put together a wedding is no simple feat. Imagine you have to do that on Yom Tov, Chol HaMoed. Tircha b'moed is aser, therefore don't get married on Yom Tov. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar has another pshat. Bittul Purya v'Ribya. Concerned about bittul of the mitzvah. How's that? Says Rashi, 5 from the bottom. Mishum bittul Purya v'Ribya. The Yisharin Yisurim b'Yom Tov. If we allow a wedding on Yom Tov, ein adam noise isha kol hashana kula. Person will postpone his wedding for Yom Tov. Elamamtin adam moed. She'oisa suda achas l'moed and l'suin. Save some money. It'll be economical. Postpone his wedding all the way till Yom Tov. This way you can have one suda for Yom Tov and his wedding. So that's an option. We're going to create a situation where people are going to delay their weddings and be mevatel the mitzvah purvy review. So why shouldn't he get married on Yom Tov? 4 reasons. Ein ma'arva simcha b'simcha. He might abandon maniach simchas haregel and be oisik b'simchas ishtay, which is perhaps more exciting to him. And third pshat is tircha, that a wedding generates. 4th reason is bitul purya v'ribya. Now Tosfos explains, he focuses on the next part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that you can be machzeh grushasa. You don't get married, but you can remarry a grusha on Yom Tov. So let's go through all the reasons here, all 4 reasons, and see why it doesn't apply, why these concerns don't apply in this case. So Tosfos deals with that, and he says like this: by machzeh grushasa, that doesn't generate such a great simcha, and therefore it's not going to interfere. It's not going to be iruv simcha b'simcha, nor is it going to be maniach simchas haregel for that sake. Also, he says it's not much of a tirch. I guess it's not a grand occasion which requires so much tircha. And also, bitul purya v'ribya doesn't apply. He says stama de mosa. We assume typically when he remarries, we're speaking about a situation where he already has children, and therefore Chacham did not make a isser in that case. Another point he says is that because the occasion won't be so grand, so there's no reason for him to wait, to postpone, to delay it until the Yom Tov. This actually adds a couple of more points. He says, what about a Sudas Bris Mila? Why isn't that a concern? So he says it's not really a situation of Simcha. It brings a Gemara that we don't say the bracha of Shasimcha Ma'inai, that we do by the Yesheva brachas. We don't say it by the Bris because the Nuka, the child, has Tsar. So it's not considered such a grand Simcha occasion, which would interfere with Yom Tov. Inami, another teretz, says Tosfos, because it has a Zman Kavua. It has a designated Zman, and therefore we're not going to push off the Suda in this case. A wedding is up to you, right? So that you're required to modify and accommodate the Yom Tov, but a Sudas Bris, you do it in time. In fact, my son's bris was on Chol HaMoed Pesach, so we're not mevatel the Sudas Bris on Yom Tov. But then he says, what about Sudas Pidyon Haben? He says over there, if it's Shloi Bizmana, sometimes it's not exactly on the 30th day. So how can you do that? How can you do it on Yom Tov? So he says that Kaimlan Rav Ashi. We adopt Rav Ashi's pshat. What was Rav Ashi? B'chag chavalei be'ishtecha. The reason why we don't make a wedding is because of and that only applies to a simchas nesuin. By the Ishlam, another pshat, he says that Eim Arv Simcha B'Simcha only applies by a wedding, which is a grand simcha. But these minor, relatively minor occasions are not considered a stira. They don't really interfere with simchas a regel. Okay, continues the Gemara on the bottom line. Meisvei, we're going to have a kasha on the halacha in the Mishnah. Kol elu she'amru asurun lisa b'moed. In all cases where you cannot marry on Chol HaMoed, mutaran lisa erev regel. But lechatchila you can go ahead, conduct that marriage on erev Yom Tov. That wouldn't be a problem. Now this is going to be a kasha lakulu, a kasha on all shittas, because although the wedding is technically before Yom Tov, but remember, every wedding is followed by 7 days. Shivas Yimei HaMishta, and that's going to take place on Yom Tov and interfere with Simchas Yom Tov. It's a kasha to all shittas, to all 4 explanations. Like kasha, the answer is pashut. Lamanda Amar Mishum Simcha. The first 2 reasons, Ein Ma'arv Simcha B'Simcha, or because we're concerned that he might abandon Simchas HaRegel and be Yishrik B'Simchas Ishtoi. That doesn't apply here. That concern doesn't apply when the wedding takes place a day before Yom Tov. You know why? Ikar Simcha Chad Yomu. Face it, the Ikar Simcha is the wedding. So although it's an ongoing 7-day celebration, but the Ikar is the first day, and therefore it's not considered a contradiction to Simchas Yom Tov. As long as the wedding precedes Yom Tov, you're safe. Lamanda Mishum Tircha. If the reason is Tircha, to prepare for the Suda, Ikar Tircha Chad Yomu. Again, the Ikar Tircha is before Yom Tov. The actual wedding. That's the Ikar occasion that requires the main Tircha. So although the celebrations spill into Yom Tov, that's merely secondary. That doesn't require that much Tircha, which would be considered a concern on Yom Tov. Likewise, the one that's concerned about delaying his wedding, postponing it until Yom Tov when he can catch 2 birds with 1 stone, do 1 Suda for both. Well, the truth is here, he's very, very limited in his scheduling. Here, he's taking a big chance. Imagine, he gets engaged months before Yom Tov. He says, you know what, let me be economical. I'll make my wedding Yom Tov time. So he knows he can't do it on Yom Tov itself. It's a Mishnah. But he knows the Brisa, which allows you to do it a day before Yom Tov. Well, who's going to take such a chance? Maybe the last minute something will come up. He won't be able to do his wedding on the Erev Yom Tov. He's limiting himself to 1 day. He's tying himself down to that 1 day. It's unlikely a person will take that chance. And therefore, he wouldn't delay his wedding on the chance that he'll do it Erev Yom Tov. He might get busy, it might not work out. So l'chad yoma, when we're speaking about an opportunity, a chance to do the wedding only on 1 day, a person will not delay matters, and therefore the concern of Pirav Yerubia wouldn't apply. Okay, so the bottom line is, we learned that there are no weddings meant to take place on Yom Tov. Machzak Rishasa would be allowed. Why can't you have a wedding on Yom Tov? 4 reasons. We're concerned about the tircha involved in preparing the wedding on Yom Tov, and perhaps a person might be tempted to delay his wedding until Yom Tov comes around. Mishum bittul piriv Yerubia. And the Gemara concludes that a wedding on Erev Yom Tov would be okay because all 4 reasons won't apply. Okay, let's do a quick chazara. We learned that when it comes to a nega, it's up to the kohen. He can delay matters, ignore the nega until after the Yom Tov, after Yeshivas Yimei HaMishta. We find 2 mekaris for this halacha. Ubiyam hiro is boy. V'tziva kohen epinios habayis. We learned that a nega can only be seen by day. The kohen has to have full visual capacity, both functioning eyes, to take a look at the nega. Be malakit that some is on Chol HaMoed, the machlekes. Rabbi Yossi says, Evel Huloi, you shouldn't do it. A hesped within 30 days is a problem, either because he might deplete his funds to pay for the maspid's services, or because the tsar might spill over into Yom Tov. Afkamina would be if this fellow offers his services free of charge. So hefsed mama doesn't apply, but tsar does. One may not prepare graves ahead of time, but he can modify existing graves. What about building an arein? So if the boards are prepared in advance, that's mutter. He's got to chop them down on Yom Tov. Rabbi Yehuda says you can't do it. It's too much of a malacha. It's too grand. It interferes with kavet MOED. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says you can do it b'tzina b'teichbeis. Marriage on MOED cannot be performed. We have 4 reasons. And as the Gemara concludes, but Erev Yom Tov would be okay. All the best to you and much hatzlacha.